The chamber was huge, bigger than most cities on Earth. The walls curved up and away into darkness, and strange lights floated in the air like captured stars. This was the heart of the Galactic Council, built inside a space station that orbited a dying star. Jake Morrison sat in his chair and watched the aliens argue. They had been arguing for 3 hours, the same argument they had been having for the past 20 years. Someone had a problem, someone else had started a war, and everyone expected humans to fix it. Jake was 54 years old. His hair was gray now, and lines marked his face from decades of these meetings. He had been Earth's top diplomat for almost his entire adult life. He had seen every kind of alien the galaxy had to offer. Some looked like giant insects, some were made of living crystal. Others were clouds of gas that somehow managed to think and speak. Right now, the Vorthak were demanding attention. They were the crystal ones, and when they spoke, their bodies made sounds like wind chimes in a storm. Their leader stood at the center of the chamber, her faceted body catching the floating lights and throwing rainbows across the walls. "The Outer Rim conflict threatens galactic stability," she announced. Her voice echoed from every crystal surface on her body. 7 species fight over mining rights to the Kepler Belt asteroids. Trade routes are disrupted. Civilians die daily. The Council must act. Jake had heard this speech before. Different words, same meaning. The galaxy was in trouble, and everyone looked to Earth to solve it. The Chithrex representative clicked forward, on 6 legs. He looked like a praying mantis the size of a small truck with compound eyes that reflected the chamber's strange light. "The hive worlds agree, but action requires resources, ships, soldiers, credits. The young species must contribute." When the Chithrex said young species, they meant humans. Earth had only joined the galactic community 37 years ago. To aliens who lived for centuries or millennia, humans were children, but children who had proven very useful. The Nebulan delegate drifted closer to the center. She was harder to see, being made of gas and energy, but her voice was clear. "The Terran Federation has the strongest military. Their peacekeeping forces are the most effective. Logic suggests they should lead the intervention." Jake felt his age shift behind him. Katie Bell was young, maybe 30, and she still believed in the mission. She still thought they were making a difference. Jake remembered feeling that way, once. The debate continued. More aliens stepped forward to speak. The reptilian saurians, the machine-like constructs, the energy beings from the galactic core. They all said the same thing in different ways. Earth should provide the ships. Earth should send the soldiers. Earth should pay the bills. Finally, the Vorthak leader turned her crystal gaze toward the human section. "Ambassador Morrison, the Council awaits Terra's response to this crisis. How many battle fleets will Earth commit? What financial support will you provide?" The chamber fell silent. 200 alien species waited for Jake's answer. They expected him to negotiate, to ask for some small concession in return for massive human sacrifice. To play the game he had been playing for 20 years, Jake stood up slowly. His knees ached. His back hurt. He was getting old, and he was tired of this. 37 years ago, he said, his voice carrying clearly in the silent chamber. Earth received first contact from your people. You welcomed us into the galactic community. You shared technology and knowledge. You gave us the stars. Several aliens nodded. This was true. Humanity had benefited greatly from joining the galactic civilization. But you also gave us responsibility, Jake continued. Every war became our war. Every crisis became our problem. Every bill became our debt to pay. The Vorthak leader's crystals chimed with confusion. Your species excels at conflict resolution and resource management. It is natural that you should contribute these strengths. Contribute? Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. Let me tell you what Earth has contributed. In the Andromedan War, we lost 2 million soldiers keeping the peace between species that went back to fighting the moment our troops left. In the Great Famine of 2387, we shipped food to 47 worlds and bankrupted 3 of our agricultural colonies doing it. When the plague ships threatened the core worlds, human medical teams died by the thousands developing cures. Katie stepped forward. "Ambassador," she whispered, "perhaps we should discuss this privately first." Jake ignored her. The Meridian trade dispute, the Centauri rebellion, the Silicon Wars, the Crystal Crusade. Earth has bled for your problems for 4 decades. We have spent more money keeping galactic peace than the rest of you combined. The Ray chamber erupted. Aliens clicked, chimed, buzzed, and hummed their objections. The translator system struggled to keep up with dozens of voices speaking at once. Jake raised his hand, and somehow the noise died down. Maybe it was habit. Maybe they were curious to hear what he would say next. "Do you know what Earth gets in return?" he asked. "Gratitude that lasts exactly until the next crisis. Respect that vanishes the moment we ask for anything back. Trade deals that favor everyone except us. And the privilege of being called the young species by beings who cannot solve their own problems." The Vorthak leader's crystals darkened. "Ambassador Morrison, surely you do not suggest that Terra withdraw from its galactic responsibilities?" "That is exactly what I suggest," Jake said. The silence that followed was complete. Even the station's background hum seemed to fade away. Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. It was his diplomatic seal, the symbol of Earth's authority in the Council. He set it on the table in front of him. "Effective immediately, the Terran Federation withdraws from all galactic affairs. We resign from the Council. We cancel all military agreements. We close all trade arrangements. We recall all diplomatic personnel." He looked around the chamber, meeting as many alien gazes as he could. "You want to solve the Outer Rim conflict? Do it yourselves. You want to fund peacekeeping, operations? Use your own money. You want someone to mediate your disputes? Pick someone else." Katie stared at him in shock. "Sir, you cannot make this decision alone. The President, the Senate, have already approved this action," Jake said calmly. "The vote was taken yesterday. Earth is going home." He turned and walked toward the exit. Katie hesitated for a moment, then grabbed the diplomatic seal and hurried after him. Behind them, the chamber exploded into chaos. As they reached the transport bay, Katie finally found her voice. 20 years of work just thrown away? Jake stopped and looked back at the council chamber through the transparent walls. Inside, aliens were screaming at each other in a dozen languages. Several small fights had already broken out. "Not thrown away," he said quietly. "We are teaching them a lesson. Sometimes the only way to help someone is to stop helping them." Their shuttle pulled away from the station and turned toward Earth. Behind them, emergency sessions were already being called across the galaxy. The humans were leaving and nobody knew what to do about it. Jake Morrison settled back in his seat and closed his eyes. For the first time in decades, he felt peace. Admiral Lisa Hayes stood at the observation deck of Earth's Orbital Command Center and watched the biggest evacuation in human history. Ships filled the sky in every direction. Massive transport vessels carried millions of colonists back to Earth. System. Military cruisers escorted them, weapons powered and shields up. Nobody knew how the aliens would react to humanity's withdrawal. 6 months had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the Galactic Council. 6 months of careful planning and organized retreat. Lisa had commanded the operation from the beginning, and the scale still amazed her. 300 human colonies spread across 200 light years were being abandoned. 40 million people were coming home. "Admiral, the last transport from the Vega colonies just jumped to hyperspace," reported Commander Roy Thompson from his station. He was young for his rank, maybe 35, but he had proven himself during the evacuation. "ETA to Sol system is 18 hours. Lisa nodded. Vega had been one of humanity's oldest colonies, established just 15 years after first contact. The colonists there had built a beautiful world, with cities that floated on crystal lakes and farms that grew food for a dozen nearby alien species. Now it was empty except for automated systems that would shut down in another month. "What about the research stations?" Lisa asked. Dr. Carter's team is finishing up on Kepler 442b. They should be ready for pickup in 3 days. The xenobiology lab on Proxima Station is already packed and waiting for transport. Lisa pulled up the status board on her tablet. Green lights showed successful evacuations. Yellow meant operations in progress. Red indicated problems. There were still too many yellow lights for her comfort, but no red ones. The evacuation was going better than anyone had expected. The door behind her opened, and President Helen Martinez walked in. She looked tired. Running a government was hard enough without organizing the retreat of an entire civilization. "How are we doing, Admiral?" the president asked. "Ahead of schedule, actually. The aliens have been surprisingly cooperative. No interference with our shipping, no attempts to block hyperspace routes. I think they are still in shock." President Martinez laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "They should be. Half the galaxy is falling apart without us." Lisa pulled up the intelligence reports on her main screen. The news from beyond human space was not good. The Outer Rim conflict had exploded into open warfare between 7 species. The Chithrex had declared war on the Nebulan Collective over trade disputes. 3 separate border wars had started in sectors that human peacekeepers used to patrol. The Galactic Council tried to organize their own response to the Outer Rim situation. President Martinez continued. It lasted exactly 4 hours before the Vorthak and Saurians started fighting over command authority. The joint fleet they assembled fell apart before it even left port. "What about the economy?" Lisa asked. "Complete disaster." The Terran banking consortium froze all external accounts as ordered. Turns out we were financing about 60% of interstellar trade. 23 worlds have declared economic emergency in the past month. The stock market on Nexus Prime crashed so hard, they suspended trading indefinitely. Lisa felt a mix of satisfaction and guilt. Humanity had not realized how much the galaxy depended on them until they stopped providing support. But the cost was enormous. Alien civilians were suffering because their governments had taken human aid for granted. "Ma'am, we have an incoming message from Kepler 442b, Thompson announced. "Dr. Carter wants to speak with you directly." Lisa activated the communication system. The screen flickered and Dr. Alex Carter appeared. He looked frustrated and sad. Behind him, Lisa could see the xenobiology lab being packed into shipping containers. "Admiral, I need to report a problem," Carter said. "My research partner, Resonance of Deep Caves, is refusing to let us remove the joint research data. She says it belongs to both species and cannot be taken by either one alone." Lisa sighed. Resonance of Deep Caves was a Vorthak scientist who had worked with Carter for over a decade. They had made breakthrough discoveries together in alien biology and medicine. Their partnership was famous throughout the scientific community. "What kind of data are we talking about, Doctor?" "Genetic sequences for disease resistance, new agricultural techniques, medical treatments that work on both human and alien biology, 20 years of collaborative research." Carter paused and looked directly at the camera. "Admiral, some of this research could save millions of lives, both human and alien." President Martinez stepped forward. "Dr. Carter, our orders are clear. All human personnel and resources are to be withdrawn immediately. No exceptions." "I understand the orders, Madam President. But Resonance of Deep Caves is not just a colleague, she is a friend. We have worked together since I was a graduate student. She is begging me not to take the research away." Lisa could see the conflict in Carter's eyes. The scientist was being torn between his loyalty to humanity and his personal relationships with alien colleagues. "Put her on the screen," President Martinez said quietly. The image shifted, and a Vorthak appeared. Resonance of Deep Caves was smaller than most of her species, her crystal body a deep blue color that indicated age and wisdom. When she spoke, her voice carried the musical tones that made Vorthak communication so beautiful. "President Martinez, I greet you with respect and sadness. Your people have been good partners in the search for knowledge. Dr. Carter has been like a brother to me. Please do not let politics destroy what we have built together." "I am sorry," President Martinez replied. "But your government and the Others have made it clear that humans are only valuable as servants and soldiers. We are not abandoning our research. We are protecting it from those who would exploit it. The crystal being's light dimmed. Our governments are fools. But science should be above politics. The diseases we study do not care about borders or species. The food shortages spreading across the galaxy will not be solved by pride or politics. Lisa watched President Martinez struggle with the decision. The president was a good person who genuinely cared about alien suffering, but she also had to protect humanity's interests. Finally, the president spoke. Dr. Carter, you will pack all research materials and return to Earth as ordered. However, you may provide residents of deep caves with copies of any data that was generated before the withdrawal began. Anything created during joint research efforts belongs to both species. Carter looked relieved. Thank you, Madam President. That is fair and generous. Do not thank me yet, Martinez replied grimly. Tell her that this is the last cooperation she can expect from humanity until the galaxy learns to treat us as equals instead of servants. The transmission ended, and Lisa returned to watching the evacuation fleet. More ships were arriving every hour, packed with humans who were leaving behind lives they had built among the stars. Admiral, Thompson called out, we are receiving distress signals from the Meridian sector. The Chithrex-Nebulan conflict has spread to civilian shipping. They are requesting human peacekeepers to escort medical supplies to refugee camps. Lisa looked at President Martinez, who shook her head firmly. Send them our regrets, the president said. Inform them that the Terran Federation no longer provides peacekeeping services. They will need to solve their own problems. Thompson hesitated. Ma'am, the refugees include families with children. The medical supplies are critical. The galaxy made its choice when it treated us like hired soldiers instead of partners, Martinez replied. Now they live with the consequences. Lisa understood the decision, but it did not make her feel good. Children were dying because their leaders had been too proud and too stupid to treat humanity with respect. But if they helped now, nothing would change. The aliens would continue to take human aid for granted until the next crisis forced another confrontation. Time to pick up for Dr. Carter's team? She asked. 72 hours, Thompson replied. Good. After that, we closed the door. On the Kepler 442b research station, another piece of human civilization comes home. Lisa turned back to the observation deck and watched Earth's children returning from the stars. The evacuation was almost complete. Soon, humanity would be alone again, protected by their own strength and dependent on no one else. The galaxy would learn to miss them. The question was whether that lesson would come before or after everything fell apart. Far beyond human space, emergency broadcasts flooded the communication networks. Wars were spreading. Economies were collapsing. The species that had dismissed humans as young and inexperienced were discovering that youth and inexperience had been keeping the galaxy running. But that was no longer humanity's problem. Commander Tony Rodriguez floated in the command chair of the TFS Defender, watching his screens with growing concern. 2 years had passed since humanity withdrew from galactic politics, and the universe beyond their borders was falling apart, faster than anyone had predicted. The Defender patrolled the edge of human space 50 light-years from Earth. Tony's job was simple: watch the border and make sure no alien conflicts spilled into human territory. What he saw on his long-range sensors made that job more difficult every day. Sir, we have another refugee ship approaching the border, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the communication station. It is a Nebulan civilian transport. They are requesting permission to enter human space. Tony pulled up the scanner data on his main screen. The ship was damaged, leaking atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. Life support was failing. Whatever had happened to them had been bad. How many aboard? He asked. Approximately 300 civilians, including 47 juveniles, Kim replied. Tony closed his eyes and rubbed his temples. This was the 5th refugee ship this month. Word was spreading through the galaxy that humans still treated aliens with basic decency, even if they would not get involved in alien wars. Send them the standard message, Tony ordered. Human space is closed to alien vessels. Direct them to the nearest functioning alien port. Kim hesitated. Sir, The nearest alien port is in Chithrex space, and the Chithrex are at war with the Nebulans. Those refugees will be killed or enslaved if we send them there. Our orders are clear, Lieutenant. We do not get involved in alien affairs. But even as he gave the order, Tony felt sick to his stomach. Before the withdrawal, human ships would have escorted those refugees to safety without question. Now they were turning away families with children because the galaxy had learned to hate humanity for being helpful. The communication system crackled to life. Human vessel, this is civilian transport, Whisper of Stars, please. We have sick and injured aboard. We only need medical supplies and safe passage to neutral space. Tony recognized the voice. It was a female Nebulan, probably young from the pitch of her tones. He had heard similar pleas dozens of times in the past 2 years. Whisper of Stars, you are ordered to change course immediately. Human space is closed to all alien vessels, without exception. There was a long pause. Then the Nebulan spoke again, and her voice was breaking with desperation. Human Commander, my name is Whisper of Solar Winds. I am a scientist from the Kepler 442b research station. I worked with Dr. Alex Carter for 3 years. Please, in the name of our friendship, help us. Tony sat up straight. He knew that name. Dr. Carter had mentioned Whisper of Solar Winds in several reports. She was a brilliant young xenobiologist who had helped develop new medical treatments. She was also one of the few aliens who had openly criticized her government's treatment of humanity. Lieutenant Kim, get me a secure channel to Earth Command, Tony ordered, while Kim established the connection. Tony studied the refugee ship more carefully. The damage pattern was familiar. Plasma burns and projectile impacts. This was battle damage, not an accident. Sir, I have Admiral Hayes on the line, Kim announced. Tony activated his private communication screen. Admiral Hayes appeared, looking as tired as everyone else in the human military these days. Running a defensive patrol along a 50-light-year border was exhausting work. What is it, Commander Rodriguez? Hayes asked. Ma'am, we have a Nebulan refugee ship at the border. One of the passengers is Dr. Whisper of Solar Winds. She worked with Dr. Carter at the Joint Research Station. Hayes frowned. The xenobiologist? I remember her from the evacuation reports. What is her status? Unknown, but the ship is badly damaged and they have wounded aboard. They are requesting medical aid and safe passage. You know the standing orders, Commander, no exceptions. Yes, ma'am, but there might be more to this situation. The damage on their ship looks like it came from a deliberate attack, and Whisper of Solar Winds specifically mentioned her friendship with Dr. Carter. Hayes was quiet for a moment, thinking. Finally, she spoke. Scan their ship for weapons and contraband. If they are clean, you may provide emergency medical supplies only. No safe passage, no escort, no extended aid, and I want a full report on their story. Understood, Admiral. Rodriguez out. Tony closed the channel and turned back to his crew. Kim, inform the refugee ship that we will provide emergency medical supplies only. Martinez, prepare a medical supply pod for transfer. Johnson, I want detailed scans of their ship and crew. 20 minutes later, Tony was watching the supply transfer when Kim called out from her station. Sir, the Nebulan scientist is requesting permission to speak with you directly. Put her through. The main screen flickered and Whisper of Solar Winds appeared. Tony had never seen a Nebulan in person before, only in photos and videos. She was beautiful in an alien way, her gaseous body shifting colors as she spoke. But he could see the exhaustion and fear in her movements. Commander, I thank you for the medical supplies. They will save lives. You are welcome. Now tell me what happened to your ship. Whisper of Solar Winds' colors darkened. We were fleeing from the Nebulan homeworld. A plague has been spreading through our colonies for the past year. The government blamed humans for creating the disease as biological warfare. They ordered all scientists who had worked with human researchers to be arrested as traitors. Tony felt a chill run down his spine. Biological warfare? That is impossible. Humans would never create diseases to harm alien civilians. I know this. My research with Dr. Carter proved that human medical knowledge could cure many alien diseases, not create them. But fear makes people stupid. The government needed someone to blame for the plague, and humans were convenient targets. What kind of plague are we talking about? Whisper of Solar Winds transmitted a data packet to the defenders' computers. Tony's medical officer quickly analyzed the information and gasped. Sir, this is a variant of the Kepler flu that Dr. Carter's team was working on before the evacuation. But it has mutated into something much more dangerous. The mortality rate among nebulans is over 70%. Tony looked back at the alien scientist. Can it be cured? Yes, but only with human medical technology and techniques that Dr. Carter and I developed together. The research data we left behind could save millions of lives. But the Nebulan government destroyed all the joint research files when they declared humans to be enemies. Do you have copies of the research? Some, but not enough to mass-produce a cure. I need access to the full database that Dr. Carter took. Back to Earth. Tony knew he was walking into dangerous territory. Providing medical data to aliens could be seen as violating the withdrawal orders. But millions of lives were at stake. There is more, Whisper of Solar Winds continued. The plague is not natural. Our investigation showed that it was accidentally created when Nebulan scientists tried to duplicate human medical techniques without proper understanding. Their incompetence created a monster that is now killing our people. The irony was bitter. Alien pride and stupidity had created a disaster that only human knowledge could solve. And now they were blaming humans for the consequences of their own failures. Commander, his communications officer called out, we are receiving multiple distress signals from across the galaxy. It looks like the Meridian sector is under attack. Tony brought up the tactical display. Ships were fighting throughout the sector that had once been protected by human peacekeepers. The Battle of Centauri Gate was raging between 5 different species and none of them seemed to be winning. Sir, Admiral Hayes is requesting a full report on the battle. Intelligence Command wants to know if the conflict might spread toward human space. Tony watched the tactical display and made his decision. Kim, record a message to Dr. Carter on Earth. Tell him that Whisper of Solar Winds is requesting access to their joint medical research to cure a plague on the Nebulan homeworld. Include all the data she provided about the disease. Sir, that might violate our non-interference orders. Medical aid is not political interference. We are not choosing sides in a war. We are trying to prevent a genocide caused by alien stupidity. Tony turned back to Whisper of Solar Winds. I cannot promise anything, but I will make sure your request reaches the right people on Earth. If Dr. Carter decides to help, that will be his choice to make. The alien scientist's colors brightened with hope. Thank you, Commander. You may be saving my entire species. As the refugee ship limped away toward the galactic interior, Tony wondered if humanity was making the right choice. The galaxy was falling apart without them, but getting involved again might just restart the cycle of exploitation and ingratitude. On his screens, the Battle of Centauri Gate continued to rage. Without human coordination, the different alien fleets were shooting at each other, as much as they were fighting their common enemies. The galaxy was learning that cooperation required more than good intentions. It required trust, and trust had to be earned. Tony hoped they would learn that lesson before everything collapsed completely, but as he watched another refugee ship appear on his sensors, he was not sure there would be enough time. General Pete Sullivan stared at the massive display screen in Earth's Deep Space Command Center. The image showed something that should not exist. A fleet of ships unlike anything in the galactic database was moving through the outer rim at incredible speed. They were black as space itself, absorbing light rather than reflecting it, and they were heading straight for inhabited systems. How many ships? Pete asked his intelligence officer. Impossible to tell, sir. They seem to absorb our scanning beams. Conservative estimate is over 10,000 vessels, but it could be much more. Pete had been a soldier for 30 years. He had fought in border conflicts and alien wars before humanity withdrew from galactic politics, but he had never seen anything like this. What do we know about their technology? Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos pulled up a new display. They appeared from empty space 3 weeks ago. No hyperspace signatures, no engine trails. They just materialized at the galactic rim and started moving inward. Every world they encounter goes silent within hours. Silent? Complete communication blackout. No distress calls, no evacuation signals, nothing. It is like the planets just stop existing. Pete felt a cold weight in his stomach. Show me the affected systems. The display changed to show a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked the location of dead worlds. 17 systems had gone dark in the past 3 weeks. The pattern was clear. The unknown fleet was moving steadily toward the galactic core, consuming everything in its path. Sir, we have incoming communications from alien governments, Santos reported. The Vorthak Crystal Alliance is requesting immediate military assistance. The Chithrex Hive Queens are offering full surrender of territorial disputes in exchange for human protection. The Nebulan Collective is begging us to reconsider our withdrawal. Pete laughed bitterly. 2 years ago they called us warmongers and imperialists. Now they want us to save them from the consequences of their own stupidity. What should I tell them, sir? Tell them to solve their own problems. We tried to help for 40 years and they spat in our faces. Now they can face this threat without us. But even as Pete gave the order, he knew the situation was more complicated than simple revenge. The unknown fleet was not just an alien problem. Eventually, they would reach human space. Earth would have to face them alone if the rest of the galaxy was destroyed first. President Helen Martinez entered the command center, followed by Dr. Alex Carter and Admiral Lisa Hayes. The president looked older than her 60 years. Running a government during humanity's isolation had been exhausting. General Sullivan, what is our assessment of this new threat? She asked. Pete activated the main briefing display. Unknown fleet of approximately 10,000 ships moving through the galaxy at high speed. They destroy or disable every world they encounter. No communication attempts have been successful. No survivors have been recovered from attacked systems. Doctor. Carter stepped forward. I have been analyzing the limited data we collected. These ships appear to use technology that operates outside our understanding of physics. They can appear and disappear without using hyperspace. Their weapons can somehow drain the energy from entire planets. Weapons assessment? Admiral Hayes asked. Unknown but extremely effective. The Saurian defense fleet tried to intercept them at the Rigel system. 43 heavy cruisers and 200 fighters engaged the enemy. The entire fleet was destroyed in less than 10 minutes. President Martinez studied the tactical displays. How long before they reach human space? At current speed, approximately 18 months, but that assumes they maintain their present course and do not accelerate. The president was quiet for a long moment. Pete could see her thinking through the implications. Humanity had spent 2 years building up their defenses and withdrawing from galactic affairs. Now they faced a threat that might require cooperation with the same aliens who had driven them to isolation. Dr. Carter, in your opinion, can we defeat this enemy alone? She asked. Carter looked uncomfortable. Madam President, we simply do not have enough data to make that assessment. But based on what we have seen, I would estimate our chances of victory in a direct confrontation to be very low. And with alien assistance? Better, but still not good. The combined military might of all galactic species might be enough to stop this fleet, but only if they can coordinate effectively and share technology. Admiral Hayes spoke up. Which they cannot do without human leadership. We have seen what happens when alien species try to work together. The Battle of Centauri Gate was a complete disaster because nobody could agree on command structure or tactics. President Martinez turned to Pete. General, what would it take to organize an effective defense against this threat? Pete had been expecting this question. Complete integration of all galactic military forces under human command. Shared intelligence networks, standardized communication protocols, joint training operations, and most importantly, absolute authority for human commanders to make decisions without interference from alien politicians. In other words, everything the aliens have refused to give us for 40 years. Yes, Madam President, they want us to save them, but they are not willing to admit that we know more about warfare than they do. The communication system activated, and Lieutenant Colonel Santos approached the President. Ma'am, we have an urgent message from the Border Patrol. Commander Rodriguez reports that Whisper of Solar Winds has requested a private meeting with our leadership. She claims to represent a coalition of moderate alien leaders who want to negotiate new terms for human involvement. President Martinez looked surprised. The Nebulan scientist from the refugee ship? What kind of coalition? Unknown. But she specifically mentioned that they are prepared to offer formal apologies for past treatment and to accept human authority in military matters. Pete felt a spark of interest. If alien governments were finally willing to admit their mistakes and accept human leadership, it might be possible to organize an effective defense. But trust would be difficult to rebuild after 2 years of isolation. Where does she want to meet? The president asked. Neutral space at the Kepler 186 system. She says she has authorization to speak for 12 major species, including the Vorthak and the Chithrex. Dr. Carter stepped forward. Madam President, I know Whisper of Solar Winds personally. She is brilliant and honest. If she says she can speak for a coalition, I believe her. Admiral Hayes was more skeptical. It could be a trap. The aliens might be desperate enough to try capturing human leaders to force our involvement. Or it could be our only chance to save both humanity and the galaxy, President Martinez replied. She turned to Pete. General, if we were to consider re-engaging with galactic affairs, what would be our minimum requirements? Pete had thought about this question many times over the past 2 years. First, formal recognition of human authority in all military matters. Second, guaranteed representation in all major decisions affecting galactic security. Third, protection for human colonies and trade routes. Fourth, reparations for the economic losses we suffered during withdrawal. And fifth, Dr. Carter added, immediate access to all alien research and technology relevant to fighting this new threat. No more secrets, no more territorial competition over scientific knowledge. President Martinez walked to the main display and stared at the map of dead worlds. The red dots were spreading like a disease across the galaxy. Each dot represented billions of lives lost to an enemy that humanity barely understood. Schedule the meeting, she decided, but we go in with full military escort and absolute authority to withdraw if the aliens are not serious about real cooperation. Pete felt a mix of anticipation and dread. After 2 years of isolation, humanity was about to re-enter galactic politics. But this time, they would not be naive junior partners grateful for any scraps of respect. They would be the senior species, with the power to dictate terms to governments that had learned the hard way what life was like without human protection. Ma'am, Santos called out, we have another update from the battle zone. The unknown fleet has accelerated. New estimated time to human space is 12 months. President Martinez nodded grimly. Then we do not have time for lengthy negotiations. Either the aliens accept our terms immediately, or they face this threat alone. As Pete watched the tactical displays update with new intelligence, he wondered if humanity was making the right choice. The galaxy had betrayed their trust and exploited their generosity for decades, but allowing entire species to be destroyed out of spite would make humans no better than the enemies they were preparing to fight. The decision was made. Humanity would return to galactic affairs, but this time as leaders rather than servants. The question was whether the aliens had finally learned enough humility to accept that arrangement. Outside the command center windows, Earth's defense fleet was already mobilizing. Ships that had spent 2 years patrolling the borders of human space were preparing for a much larger mission. The galaxy was about to discover what humanity could accomplish when they fought for respect instead of gratitude. President Helen Martinez stood before the cameras in the White House briefing room. Behind her, the flag of Earth hung beside the banner of the Terran Federation. She had given many speeches during her presidency, but none as important as this. 1. The entire galaxy was watching. Citizens of Earth and peoples of the galaxy, she began, her voice steady and clear. 3 years ago, humanity withdrew from galactic affairs because we were tired of being treated as servants instead of partners. Today we return to the stars, but not as we left. The speech was being broadcast across every human colony and transmitted to alien governments throughout the galaxy. In the past week, Whisper of Solar Winds had delivered the formal surrender documents from 12 major species. They had agreed to every human demand without negotiation. We did not leave, because we stopped caring about the galaxy, Martinez continued. We left because caring was not enough. We gave our blood, our treasure, and our lives to species that saw us only as useful tools. Today we return as equals among equals, with the authority and respect we should have been given from the beginning. At the Kepler 186 system, Admiral Lisa Hayes watched the President's speech from the bridge of the TFS Enterprise, humanity's newest and most powerful warship. Around her, a fleet of 300 human vessels waited in formation. It was the largest military force Earth had ever assembled. Admiral, we are receiving confirmation codes from the alien fleets, reported Captain Roy Thompson, now her second, in command. The Vorthak Crystal Alliance has sent 40 ships. The Chithrex Hive Queens have committed 60 vessels. Even the Saurians have managed to contribute 30 cruisers. Lisa studied the tactical display. Nearly 500 ships from a dozen different species were gathering under human command. It was an impressive sight, but she knew the real challenge would be making them work together. Any word from the Nebulans? She asked. Whisper of Solar Winds is aboard their flagship. She reports that the Nebulan fleet is fully integrated with our command systems and ready to receive orders. Lisa nodded. The young Nebulan scientist had become humanity's most important alien ally. Her coalition of moderate leaders had convinced their governments to accept terms that would have been unthinkable 3 years ago. Complete human authority over military operations, shared technology and intelligence, formal apologies for decades of exploitation. Communications, patch me through to all fleet commanders. The main screen activated, showing the faces of alien military leaders from across the galaxy. Some looked proud, others seemed nervous. All of them looked desperate. Commanders, this is Admiral Hayes. In 1 hour, we will jump to the Meridian sector to engage the enemy fleet. Before we begin, I want to make something clear. I am in absolute command of this operation. You will follow my orders without question or delay. Any ship that breaks formation or ignores commands will be removed from the battle zone. A Vorthak, Commander's crystals chimed with concern. Admiral Hayes, our species have fought together before. Surely some consultation on tactics would be appropriate. Lisa's expression hardened. Commander, your species have fought together before and lost every single engagement with the enemy. 43 Saurian ships were destroyed in 10 minutes because they could not coordinate their attacks. The Battle of Centauri Gate was a disaster because nobody could agree on who was in charge. We are not here to debate tactics. We are here to win. The alien commanders fell silent. The weight of their failures hung heavy in the virtual meeting room. Dr. Alex Carter watched the fleet preparations from his laboratory aboard the Enterprise. He had spent the past month working with alien scientists to develop new weapons based on captured enemy technology. The breakthrough had come from studying debris recovered from destroyed worlds. The enemy ships use a form of quantum energy manipulation, he explained to his research team. They can drain power from conventional weapons and shields, but Whisper of Solar Winds discovered that certain frequency combinations can disrupt their energy absorption. His assistant, a young human engineer named Bobby Clark, looked up from his calculations. So we can hurt them, but only if we coordinate our attacks perfectly. Exactly. Random firing will be useless. Every ship has to target the same frequency, at the same time. It requires precise timing and absolute trust between all fleet elements. Carter looked out at the assembled alien ships through his laboratory window. 3 years ago, those species could not agree on lunch menus without human mediation. Now they had to trust each other with their survival. On the bridge, Admiral Hayes received the final intelligence reports. The enemy fleet had reached the Meridian sector and was systematically destroying the remaining defense stations. Civilian evacuation ships were fleeing in all directions, but many would not escape in time. All ships report ready for hyperspace jump, Captain Thompson announced. Very well. All vessels, jump in 30 seconds on my mark. The combined fleet disappeared into hyperspace, traveling faster than light toward what might be the most important battle in galactic history. They emerged in the Meridian sector to find chaos. The enemy fleet was even larger than intelligence had estimated. Thousands of black ships moved through space like a swarm of insects, consuming everything in their path. Defense stations exploded in brilliant flashes as their energy was drained and redirected back at them. Enemy fleet composition? Hayes asked. Over 15,000 vessels, Admiral. They are focusing their attack on the civilian evacuation routes. Hayes felt anger rise in her chest. The enemy was not just conquering worlds. They were specifically targeting helpless refugees. All ships, implement battle formation Alpha. Chithrex squadrons take point positions. Vorthak heavy cruisers provide cover fire. Nebulan ships coordinate electronic warfare. The alien commanders began acknowledging orders immediately. No arguments, no delays, no territorial disputes. They had finally learned that survival required unity. Dr. Carter, are your frequency disruptors ready? All ships are equipped and synchronized, Admiral. We get one chance to test this theory. Hayes watched the tactical display as her fleet moved into position. The enemy ships were turning toward them now, sensing the new threat. The black vessels moved with unnatural coordination, flowing through space like liquid darkness. All ships. This is Admiral Hayes. Today we fight not as separate species, but as one people defending our common home. The enemy believes we are weak because we are different. They are about to learn that our diversity is our greatest strength. The first enemy ships opened fire, sending streams of energy that could drain the power from entire fleets. But instead of scattering in panic, the Allied ships moved in perfect formation. Human tactical doctrine, Vorthak shield technology, Chithrex swarm maneuvers, and Nebulan electronic warfare systems worked together like parts of a single machine. Frequency disruptors, activate on my mark, Hayes commanded. All ships target the lead enemy vessel. Fire. 500 ships fired simultaneously, their weapons perfectly synchronized to the frequency that Dr. Carter and Whisper of Solar Winds had discovered. The energy beams struck the massive enemy ship and something unprecedented happened. The black vessel flickered. For the first time since the invasion began, an enemy ship showed damage. Its energy absorption systems overloaded and failed. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull. Direct hit, Thompson shouted. Enemy vessel is damaged and retreating. But Hayes knew the real victory was not in hurting one enemy ship. It was in proving that the galaxy could fight as one people when humanity led them. For the first time in 3 years, the aliens were working together instead of against each other. All ships, continue the attack. Show them what we can accomplish when we stand united. The battle raged through space as humanity led the galaxy's children back into the light. They had returned not as servants, but as the teachers and protectors they were always meant to be. 5 years had passed since the Battle of Meridian Sector, and the galaxy looked completely different. President Helen Martinez stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, watching construction crews put the finishing touches on humanity's greatest achievement. The massive diplomatic complex floated in neutral space, built by 12 different species working together under human supervision. Unlike the old Nexus Prime station that humanity had funded but never controlled, New Geneva belonged to everyone, but everyone understood who was in charge. Madam President, the opening ceremony is ready to begin, announced her aide, Bobby Clark. The young man had grown up during humanity's withdrawal and return. To him, alien species accepting human leadership was simply how the universe worked. Martinez walked through corridors lined with art and symbols from dozens of worlds. Vorthak crystals provided lighting that changed color based on the mood of nearby beings. Chithrex biotechnology recycled air and water with perfect efficiency. Nebulan energy fields created artificial gravity that felt natural to every species. But the design and coordination were purely human. Only Earth's people had the experience and wisdom to make such different technologies work together. The main assembly hall was vast, designed to accommodate representatives from over 300 species. At the center sat the new Galactic Council, arranged in concentric circles with humanity's delegation at the heart. It was a clear symbol of the new order. Ambassador Jake Morrison, now Secretary of Galactic Affairs, waited at the central podium. The old diplomat looked younger than he had during the withdrawal years. Leading instead of begging had given him new energy. Representatives of the galaxy, Morrison began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall's advanced acoustics. 5 years ago, humanity walked away from this chamber in frustration and anger. Today, we return not as the same naive species that once hoped for friendship and received exploitation. We return as the teachers and protectors this galaxy has always needed. The alien delegates listened in respectful silence. The Vorthak crystals hummed with approval. The Chithreks clicked their mandibles in agreement. Even the proud Saurians bowed their heads in acknowledgement. Morrison continued his speech, but Martinez's attention drifted to the tactical displays around the hall's edges. They showed the current status of galactic defense. Admiral Lisa Hayes commanded a unified fleet of over 2,000 ships, with human officers in command of every major battle group. The mysterious enemy that had once seemed unstoppable was now contained at the galaxy's rim, held back by coordinated defenses and shared technology. The Terran Accords have brought peace and prosperity to worlds that spent centuries fighting each other, Morrison was saying. Trade flows freely under human protection. Scientific research advances through genuine cooperation. Children of all species learn in schools that teach unity instead of division. Martinez smiled as she remembered the early days after humanity's return. The alien species had been so grateful for rescue from the enemy invasion that they agreed to almost anything. Complete human authority over military affairs, guaranteed representation in all major decisions, economic treaties that favored Earth's interests, and most importantly, formal recognition that humanity was the senior species in the galactic community. "Madam President," Bobby whispered, "Admiral Thompson is requesting to speak with you privately." Martinez nodded and stepped out of the assembly hall. Admiral Roy Thompson waited in a secure conference room, his expression serious. The former captain had earned his promotion through brilliant leadership during the war against the enemy invasion. "What is it, Admiral?" Martinez asked. Thompson activated a holographic display showing the galaxy's outer rim. "Long-range sensors have detected new signals from beyond our borders. Not the same enemy we fought 5 years ago. Something else entirely." Martinez studied the display. Strange energy patterns were moving through empty space, approaching from a completely different direction than the previous invasion. "Analysis? Preliminary data suggest we are looking at first contact with another galaxy entirely. The signals show signs of artificial origin and advanced technology. But there is more, Madam President. The patterns match theoretical models for intergalactic communication networks." Martinez felt her heart race. Another galaxy meant potentially millions of new species with unknown capabilities and intentions. It could be the greatest opportunity in galactic history, or the greatest threat timeframe for arrival, approximately 2 years, assuming they maintain current course and speed. Martinez thought about the implications. Humanity had spent 5 years building a unified galactic civilization under their leadership. Now they would face the ultimate test of that unity. "Admiral, I want full preparations for first contact, military readiness, diplomatic protocols, scientific analysis teams, and I want representatives from all major species involved in the planning." Thompson looked surprised. "Madam President, surely this is a matter for human leadership to decide, independently." "Admiral, we learned an important lesson during our withdrawal. True strength comes not from domination, but from earning the genuine loyalty and respect of our allies. The galaxy follows us now because we proved we deserved to lead. We cannot maintain that position by excluding our partners from major decisions." 20 minutes later, Martinez was back in the assembly hall addressing the full council. "Representatives, we face a new challenge and a new opportunity. Long-range sensors have detected signals from outside our galaxy. We appear to be on the verge of first contact with an entirely different civilization." The hall erupted in excited chatter. Vorthak crystals chimed with curiosity. Chithrek's mandibles clicked rapidly. Nebulan energy fields flickered with anticipation. Whisper of Solar Winds, now Earth's closest alien ally, and the Nebulan representative to the Council, spoke first. "President Martinez, the Nebulan Collective offers full cooperation in preparing for this contact. Our energy manipulation technology could be valuable for long-range communication." Resonance of deep caves, the Vorthak scientist who had worked with Dr. Carter, added her voice. The Crystal Alliance will contribute our computational systems for signal analysis. This is a moment for all species to work together. One by one, the alien representatives pledged their support, but they all looked to humanity for leadership and guidance. The lesson of the withdrawal had been learned completely. The galaxy would follow Earth anywhere, but only because Earth had proven worthy of that trust. Dr. Alex Carter, now head of the Galactic Science Institute, activated the main display to show preliminary analysis of the mysterious signals. Initial data suggests we are dealing with a civilization far more advanced than our own. Their technology operates on principles we do not yet understand. Are they a threat? Asked the Saurian military commander. Unknown. But if they are hostile, we will face them together. The unified defense fleet that defeated the previous invasion is stronger than ever. Human command structures, alien technological diversity, and genuine cooperation between all species. Martinez stood to address the assembly one final time. 5 years ago, this galaxy was divided, weak and vulnerable. Today, we stand united under principles of mutual respect and shared responsibility. Tomorrow, we will face the unknown together, as one people with many faces. As the assembly broke up into planning committees and working groups, Martinez walked to the station's highest observation deck. Through the transparent walls, she could see ships from dozens of different species coming and going. Human vessels flew alongside Vorthak crystal ships, Chithrex biocruisers, and Nebulan energy constructs. Bobby joined her at the window. "Madam President, do you think we are ready for whatever is coming?" Martinez watched a mixed squadron of ships practice, formation flying under the command of a human lieutenant. Alien crews followed human orders without question, but they did so with pride rather than resentment. "Bobby, 3 years ago I would have said we needed to face this challenge alone to protect our independence. 5 years ago I would have said we needed to solve it for ungrateful aliens who would forget our sacrifice. Today I can say something different." She pointed to the diverse fleet maneuvering in perfect coordination outside the station. "Today I can say that we are not facing this challenge as humans trying to save aliens, or as a senior species protecting junior partners. We are facing it as the people of this galaxy, united by shared values and mutual respect. Whatever comes from beyond the stars will find us ready." In the depths of the station's archives, a single classified file contained the real truth about humanity's withdrawal and return. It had not been about alien ingratitude or human pride. It had been about preparing the galaxy for exactly this moment. Humanity had detected the approaching intergalactic signals years earlier, and had known that survival would require perfect unity under experienced leadership. The withdrawal had been strategy, not retreat. The return had been preparation, not rescue. And now, as unknown ships approached from the void between galaxies, the human species was exactly where they needed to be, leading a unified civilization that was ready for anything the universe might send their way.